Welcome, I'm Judith Royal. I'm an archetypal astrologer, and I'm here to give you your astrology weather forecast for December 21st, 2020 and beyond. And I'm just so thrilled after a very difficult 2020 to be able to say to you today that I bring you glad tidings of comfort and joy. And I say that because on the winter solstice, December 21st of 2020, we had a major, we're still in it, but we had a major astrological grand conjunction of the planets Saturn and Jupiter. In astrology, they are both at 0 degrees Aquarius, and they're going to stay in Aquarius, Jupiter for about 1 year, and Saturn for about 2.5 years. And what does this mean? I'm sure you can feel it. I know I do. It means we can breathe. We can exhale the difficulties that we have faced in 2020, and we can inhale a new dawn, a new day that is ruled by Aquarius, the air sign that is associated with extraordinary, out-of-the-box thinking, especially when it comes to questions like equality for all people. Aquarius is, in fact, the sign of the great humanitarian. So now we have this happy news of comfort and joy because my life is in order Saturn. That might be the new name I give him in Aquarius. In Capricorn, where he just left, I called him Sheriff Saturn. And that's because he gave us this legacy, and it's with us still. But the emphasis that he had for us was this very keen insistence, really, on fairness and integrity. It's a drive for success, and it has instilled some ambitions, Capricorn style, which are patriarchal and hierarchical. But those Saturn, along with Pluto, they were side by side for 2.5 years. And Pluto transformed often through destroying the old in order to build the new. But Saturn was the responsible organizer and has left us with a very substantial and helpful scaffolding that will be with us to start 2021. So the meetup of Saturn with Pluto was an event that happens only once every 500 years and was exact on January 12th of 2020. But the meetup now of Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius is a 20-year event astrologically. I think their celestial timing is just perfect because here, as we celebrate the return of light, we are very aware that we have had our darkest hours, a great deal of pain and suffering from many causes on many levels. But the point is, we want to have gratitude for being able to move away and through that now. For example, this timing of the Aquarius is when we are going to have the vaccine available to people. And it is a time that we can have hope, and not idle hope, not idle wishes, but rather the kind of hope that comes from catching our breath and elevating our self-confidence after a long period of sustained disappointments. The solstice marks our darkest hours, but they are the ones that come just before dawn. So we are now experiencing, through the rest of December in particular, a celestial push-me-pull-you. We want so much to believe that better times are ahead, that the worst of the epidemic is over, that there is reason to hope. And yet we're afraid of that because, like anything that's organic and growing, there are expansions and contractions. And we as people are very susceptible, actually it's our modus operandi, to withdraw into the fears of the past, not because we want to wallow around in there, but because it's our habit. It's what feels familiar and safe. Because you can just think of a frightened child who feels safer running into the closet and shutting the door when the child imagines that there is a demon coming through the window, right? And so we do the same kind of irrational and crazy things, and we retreat into our fears. But we don't like how that feels, and now we know the choice is ours. We see what we believe. We believe it because we see it. And that's sort of an endless loop that we can choose to stop. The good news, and Jupiter will really help us with that in the next year, the good news is we're doing this to ourselves in the sense of how we cope, how we can maintain our attitude, even in the face of the very difficult adversities that we have had in 2020. And because scientific Saturn, actually I like that name better, but Saturn is definitely the guy who wants the rigid structures, the ones that last. And so Saturn preceded Jupiter into the sign of Aquarius. He did that on the 16th of December. And so Saturn will set the structure and will take care of all the scaffolding we need so that Jupiter's rewards will follow our disciplined and very hard work that is ahead. Our breath of fresh air with this grand conjunction helps us see that there is no truly dark side to anything that we confront. That darkness is simply the absence of light. And now we will see more strongly than ever that we can provide the light. This morning, I woke with the thought that everything that ever was or will be is flowing through our conscious awareness now, today, on this, the first day of winter and the return of light into the world of darkness. In the world of time and space, the first day of winter is really about our relationship, the Earth's relationship with the sun being the source of light and life on Earth. So a lot depends on that warmth and that light. So scientifically, and believe me, Saturn and Aquarius, we're going to have some great science coming. Scientifically, the solstice is occurring because the Earth's North Pole is pointing the furthest away from the sun for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. It's kind of, though, a tilt-a-whirl universe because the Earth is tilted about 23 degrees on its axis. And personally, I have no trouble witnessing the tilt-a-whirl around me as another wave of the pandemic has me sheltering in anew. It's the tilting of my reality that is helping me flip from upside down to right side up in the way that I see things. I know it seems that our world went upside down in 2020, but I promise you, you will see that although the shift has been disorienting and still is, it is moving us into a world ruled by love rather than fear. It's just that we've been so accustomed to living in fear, we didn't realize our perceptions were 180 degrees off. What is changing on the solstice is the Earth's relationship to the sun, and, I am certainly convinced that that is an archetypal story meant to help us see that what is happening inside of us is the same as above, so below, that we are being, how important our relationship with our source, with our creator spiritually, is equally important to us. In fact, I would say my comfort and my happiness depends upon my spiritual fitness, on my acknowledging and being aware of my relationship with my source. In other words, my happiness, I know my happiness depends on my faith in love as the power of the universe, the force, as you will. Let's gather some evidence for that in the astrology. Astrologically, the solstice is the time when the sun moves into the sign of Capricorn. And that has happened with a companion. So right next to the sun, also at 00 degrees Capricorn, is messenger Mercury. And that gives us the much more hope that we will have a solar-powered mind, a very organized way of thinking about what's ahead. There is some caution in the astrology right now that things can go as they always can, either with us being guided by spirit, or we can choose to be guided by ego. For those who might choose to be guided by ego, and usually that's not a conscious choice, but in any case, it could be a sort of a do or die abuse of power, and even an extreme use of force. But what really wants to happen through spirit is an exalted form of courage as we pick ourselves up, we rise up. That has also been part of the 2020 shift. And we fulfill the message in the solstice, which is, and I'm borrowing some of this from the Sabian symbol of 1 degree Capricorn, 0 degree Capricorn, that when the community has its security threatened, a leader is needed. But who can claim such a position of authority and take command with integrity? We need a chief with an uncompromising inner moral compass. So I think that portends what has happened in America with electing Biden. The moon is in the sign of Pisces at the time of this grand conjunction, and very close to visionary Neptune, also in Pisces. And so we also have the gift here with our solar-powered minds, our intuition. We have an intuitive clairvoyance. We have a lovely inspiration to write poetry and love letters. Be sure to write one to yourself. As we move ahead through December, we have a full moon coming in the sign of Home Sweet Home Cancer, and that's on December the 29th. And here we have the energy of Spirit teaching us through contrasts. As we move towards the end of 2020, in that full moon in the sign of Cancer, we are asked to remember that we carry light into the darkness of other minds, that as the moon reflects the light of the sun into the darkness on earth, so do we do that when we reflect the love of our Creator into the fear of other minds. And we see this symbol in the Cancer full moon of the way-shower who holds the lantern high like a lighthouse on a rocky shore, so that all can see which way to go. And Cancer invites us also to sort of enjoy our sheltering in, run around naked and dance, or sit by the comfort of a warm fire and enjoy your home as a sanctuary for your spirit. Ahead of us in January, particularly around January 12th, we have a new moon. And we have some effervescent, joyous, fun-loving surprises coming our way then. At the same time, I see that we most definitely are needing to wear our mask, to social distance, and to stay at home, because the 23 degrees of Capricorn is the symbol or the energy of needing to withdraw from the mainstream. The Sabian symbol even talks about being and enjoying the seclusion in our sanctuary, because we need to curtail the exposure to too much sensory stimuli. And of course, as we know, to the virus. We, on this new year, 2021, we dedicate ourselves anew to the spirit of love within all of us. Sheriff Saturn's sojourn through Capricorn left us in a different place as we say goodbye to that energy, which was this steady, ambitious drive for fairness and integrity, to bring order into the world, to bring us into citizenship in a global village where the products that we produce and sell are products that benefit mankind. So it heralds the beginning of a new social order where scientific Saturn now takes us into technological leaps over hurdles that heretofore were impossible barriers. And science will transcend the limitations of time as we will in spirit, literally healing the sick and paving the road to global abundance once more, helping us become more efficient stewards of our planetary and personal resources. And just to keep the vibes going of eternal love, I'd like to end with a quote. This is from a guy, Marshall McLuhan, who, and in 1962, this is the guy who coined the term global village, a Canadian philosopher who had a great deal of theories about media. And this is what he said: electromagnetic discoveries have recreated the simultaneous field in all human affairs, so that the human family now exists under conditions of a global village. We live in a single constricted space, resonant with tribal drums. The new electronic interdependence recreates the world in the image of a global village. That was in 1962, before the internet, before all the things that we know electronics and media have brought to us since then. It was, of course, prophetic. Speaking of which, I'll say Jupiter's buoyant optimism is in the symbol of Lady Liberty that stands at the mouth of the harbor in New York City. And the poem that a woman wrote, I'll give you 4 lines from it that I also saw in the news recently. So we know the Lady Liberty archetype is the goddess Nike and is in our collective consciousness becoming a primary player. It says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." And so that theme of being able to once again take a deep breath, relax into ourselves without having to think we have to defend or even protest in order to have peace within ourselves and peace on earth. I look at all the Christmas-type greetings, and the theme, the way I see it, it's always peace on earth. We have that deep desire, and now we must become willing to work for it, and we'll have plenty of help doing that. I have a lot more to say about this grand conjunction next time, but for now I wish you all a quiet, a huddled, a breathing free liberty, joy, and peace for the holidays. Bye for now. You can always reach me by email, judith@judithroyal.com. Thanks for listening.